All right, we're going to move on to our next topic. This is the Safety Services Oversight Commission, and we want to welcome Tanya Gilmore to do this presentation.
Good afternoon, council members and President Boss, Council President Boss. I'm here to give a brief overview of the Public Safety and Services Oversight Commission, more commonly known as the SSOC. The SSOC is the body put into place to oversee Measure Z funds. If you could go to the next slide, please. The mandates of the SSSC are to evaluate, inquire, and review the administration, coordination, and evaluation of strategies and practices mandated by Measure Z. And it's the 2014 Measure Z, which is the the Public Safety and Services Violence Prevention Act of 2014. We are mandated to make recommendations to the city administrator regarding the scope of the program evaluation. We receive draft performance reviews from evaluators before the reports are finalized. We review the reports that are issued and identified in the fiscal audit to the mayor and city council. And we review annual fiscal and performance audits and evaluations from consultants that we hire to manage the evaluation of OPD and the Department of Violence Prevention. Next, please. We also have a mandated joint annual meeting with the mayor and the city council on the implementation of Measure Z, and the recommended ordinances to ensure compliance within the requirements of Measure Z. And pretty much those things are to provide funding for the police department and for community resource officers and crime reduction teams, for the Department of Violence Prevention to provide services to those affected by violence, and for the fire department, they get a portion of the money which works toward them being able to respond to acts of violence or emergencies in a timely fashion. The money is mandated by for each division that receives funding by the measure. So the police department receives 60% of the money. The Department of Violence Prevention receives about 40%, and $2 million of the funding is allocated to the fire department. In addition to that, 3% of the money is also Measure Z tax revenue, is also allocated to hire evaluators to produce reports that evaluates the programs and services mandated by the measure. We provide input on strategies at least every 3 years. The head of a department receiving funds from Measure Z presents a spending plan for the funds received. We request semi-annual progress reports, and we make recommendations to the departments about updating their progress toward desired outcomes. And if you could go to the next slide, please. So in the sunset years of Measure Z is a 10-year measure. The 2014 Public Safety and Services Act expires in 2024. So the last couple of years, the members of the Safety and Services Oversight Commission have made it a point to sort of go back and look at the work that had been done regarding the evaluation of OPD and the Department of Violence Prevention for the last few years. They presented that at the joint annual meeting in 2020, and then in 2021, and this year in 2022, they actually came up with a strategic plan which gets them through the remainder of the term of the current Measure Z, so that they can have a direct overview of all the things that they think ought to be looked at in these final years. So if you would go to the next slide, please. So they prepared this strategic plan, and what they want to do is have it be, and actually you can go to the next slide because I sort of covered that, I'm sorry. What they'd like this plan to do is to be able to report out at the end of the years that Measure Z runs, in a cohesive way on the efficiency or the efficacy of Measure Z, and whether or not the money was spent well, and if it actually did what it was set out to do. So they created a strategic plan, which they also call their roadmap. And if you go to the next slide, They voted on the plan in October. We had a joint meeting with you in November, with the council in November, where we introduced it. And at our January meeting, which was just earlier this week, they came up with an objective of which every month they plan to do something that gets them further along through the strategic plan for this year. And so the bulk of the strategic plan is designed to be implemented through reports presented at the monthly meeting of the SSOC by departments that are receive funding from Measure Z, and the plan will be realized through the creation of ad hoc committees. The 14 objectives are planned to be completed in a single year and can be spread out over 2 years if necessary. The plan is flexible, and the SSOC can vote to modify, add, or remove objects based on new or evolving circumstances. We go to the next slide. Currently, we have 3 openings on the Safety and Services Oversight Commission. It's a commission of 9 members. We are down by 3 members currently, and it is imperative that through the mayor and the council, that the people who apply to serve on boards and commissions be processed in a timely manner. We currently have 6 members, and so if 2 of those members fail to show up for any meeting, as happened in December of last year, we don't have a quorum and we can't conduct the business of the commission. And for these last couple of years, it's like the most important thing is that we have our meetings on a regular basis and that we are able to be productive during those meetings. So our request from council in terms of support would be that when commission members are presented to you, that if it's at all in your power, that those recommendations be approved as soon as possible so that we can have adequate members for our commission. And so we do have a website. The SSOC has a site on the city's website. These documents can be found on that website as information that gives you our upcoming meetings and videos and agenda packets from our previous meetings. And if there are no questions, then that would conclude my report.
Thank you, Ms. Gilmore.